Hello everyone! So I am going to review our last material. So it is about anthropolinguistic and um, ethnolinguistic. First, anthropolinguistic, and it is the study of language to connect human culture, society, and behavior. It looks at how people use language in everyday life, rituals, and social groups, often exploring how language reflects and shape cultural values, identities, and worldview. These fields combine anthropology and linguistics to understand language as a tool for human interaction and survival. Next, we have ethnolinguistic. So, ethnolinguistic is the study of the relationship between language and ethnic groups or cultures. It examines how people expresses cultural identity, traditions, and social norms, including how different ethnic groups use language to maintain their heritage. And it often focuses on indigenous languages and how they perceive knowledge, stories, and the way of life. And then next we have nomothetic. So nomothetic research is a scientific approach that seeks general laws or pattern that apply to everyone or large groups in linguistics, and it uses quantitative methods like surveys or experiments on many people to find universal rules about language use, such as how grammar works across cultures. And then we have Indographic. So ideographic researches focus on individual cases or specific people, groups, or situations rather than general rules. In linguistics, it's evolved detail qualitative studies like in-depth interviews or observation of one community to understand the unique language behaviors and cultural context. Next, we have language and culture. So, the language and culture are deeply connected. Language is the key part of culture, shaping how people think, communicate, and live. For example, cultural value influences words, choices, and expression, while language preserves cultural stories and traditions, changing the culture to let the language shift, and of course, vice versa. And then we have language reliability. Linguistic reliability, also known as Safer-Whorf hypothesis, is the idea that the language we speak influences how we think and perceive the world. For instance, language with many color words might make speakers more aware of color differences, suggesting that language shapes our reality rather than just reflecting it. And then next we have worldview. So, worldview or Weltanschauung in German is a person or a group's overall perspective on life, including beliefs, values, and understanding of the world. In linguistics, it refers to how language embodies and transmits these views, such as through metaphors or concepts unique to a culture, influencing how people interpret experiences. And then we have the real life example. So anthropolinguistic real life example is the studying the Yanomami tribe in Amazon rainforest. They examine how their language includes specific words for kinship and nature, and it reflects their communal lifestyle and deep connection to the environment. And of course, these helps us understand how language shapes social behaviors like decision making in tribal councils. And then we have ethnolinguistic. So the example in real life is in Hawaii. Ethnolinguistics work with native Hawaiian speakers to revive the Hawaiian language, which includes unique words for local plants and ocean life. This perceives cultural identity and traditions, showing how language ties to ethnic heritage and helps maintain community bonds. And then we have nomothetic research. So in real life linguistics, conducting a large survey across multiple countries to find universal patterns in how children learn to pronounce, like he, she, uses nomothetic methods, analyzing data from thousands of kids to establish general rules about language development. And next we have ideographic. The real life example is when a researcher spends months living with a small indigenous community in Papua New Guinea. They document how they use storytelling in their local language to pass down history, focus on this unique group's practices rather than comparing it to others. And then we have the language and culture. In real life, for example, in Japan, the uses of honorific like san to respect in language reflect cultural values of politeness and hierarchy, and it is seen in everyday interactions where people adjust speech based on social status, such as addressing a boss differently than a friend. And then we have linguistic reality in real life example. So the speaker's version, which has different words for light blue and dark blue, and then it can distinguish shades faster than English speakers who use one word blue, and it illustrates how language influences perception of colors in everyday life. And last but not least, we have worldview. The real life example is in Aboriginal Australian cultures, the daydream time stories embedded in language convey a worldwide where the land is alive and connected to ancestors, affecting how people view the environmental conservation and their place in the world as seen in art and rituals. So guys, let's move on to the PowerPoint.